All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
What am I looking for? Oh, that's what I was looking for. I was gonna go live off Instagram, but it's cool. All right, we're gonna stay in page Jerusalem and open up.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done on earth.
Thy will be done on earth.
As it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us our debts.
And forgive us our debts.
As we forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation.
But deliver us from evil.
Deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
Kingdom,
and the power. And the glory. Forever. In Jesus' holy name we pray.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
Amen.
Oh man, I'm bugging.
I'm reading the law, Exodus 20, verses 1 through 18. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which hath brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children into the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and show mercy into thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor the stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
I appreciate that, brother Ishmael.
Praise God.
All right. Another week, another Sabbath. Blessed Sabbath, y'all. Somebody spoke back. Tell you, they think it's just us in here. All right. So last week we went over Daniel 12. And we went over Daniel 12 and we looked at the time, and divided the times. And we proved through history and the Maccabees, which is history as well, that happened with Antiochus Epiphanes. I wasn't talking about the Pope or no future event with them building a third temple or some Edomites doing animal sacrifice. We didn't see none of that in Daniel 12. We saw that representing what happened when the true Israelites were still in the land and when Antiochus came in. So as I mentioned last week, we was going to knock out Daniel 8, and we'll do Daniel 11, but that whole chapter, that's long in and of itself. So I may just take out or just address it from the parts that are commonly taught, because they say after verse 19 is talking about the Pope or something. So we may take a look at Daniel 11 from verse wherever people say it's the Pope. We'll just address it from there and move on to something else. But as we have seen so far, that this ain't talk about no Pope. Nowhere in Daniel 12 talk about no Pope. We're going to see about Daniel 8 when it comes down to the 2300 days. We're going to show you that it is impossible for this to be talking about the Pope as well. And Daniel 8, Daniel 12 concern the same things. Daniel 11, Daniel 8, Daniel 12 concern all the same things. Daniel 9 takes us to Rome with the abomination of desolation, the Roman armies who came through and made Jerusalem desolate. That's why we're not there no more. We're not there, right? Who took us out? We established that the Romans did. The Roman armies took us out. So what we're going to look at today is Daniel 8, 2,300 days. But first, we're going to go to Luke 21. I made a statement about during the last Trump lesson, during the Feast of Trumpets lesson. I made a statement. Of course, I made a statement. We read a scripture, excuse me. And the statement I made in reading the scriptures about the sun, moon, and stars, not literally meaning the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, but these world powers that must fall. And we're going to address something else out of that scripture. And the reason we're doing this, because we're going to come back to this later in the following weeks about how these nations and all that got to fall and what these world powers, are represented by, as we've been doing, and what this coming with the clouds thing is as well. But we're learning a lot. And as we learn, we go. We learn as we go, I guess. But we learning a lot. So praise God for his mercy and allowing us to understand the Bible, how it's actually written, what it's actually saying. Because he got to unlock it. We can't read it like no storybook. It's not no storybook. So we really need to understand what he's saying. That's how we know, ain't nobody destroy this. You can't understand this. If the Spirit of God ain't in you, you're not going to understand this. If you're not looking to understand, it's not going to happen. You're looking for it to be wrong, or you want to hold on to whatever makes you feel comfortable. You're not going to understand what we're saying or what we read. Excuse me. You're not going to understand what the Lord is saying, because you want everybody to tap you on the back. Well, that's not how the truth works. Uh-oh. I don't even. You tell the truth, they're going to hate you. So it ain't for fitting in and having everybody like you. Clearly, what happened to Jesus? They killed him, right? Was he lying? Nah, he was telling the truth. And then some of them found out later and repented. But that ain't going to be the case for everybody. Luke 21. And verse 25. Luke 21 and verse 25. Real quick. Go ahead and read.
And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars.
Right. It says there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. Like, we have lessons to show you that this is not talking about literal go outside and see the sun, moon, and stars in the sky. Just like it ain't literal in Revelation, the 12th chapter. It represents a patriarchy or the leadership. And this is what everybody's looking for. That's why every time you see something in the sky, you say, oh, the world, Jesus coming. That's not necessarily what he's talking about here. But I was going to already open with this anyway. That's funny. He said, there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And I'm not talking about people that see signs in the sky, in the clouds, like my man just sent me a couple of pictures he saw in the sky. I'm not talking about that. He ain't thinking Jesus coming because he saw something in the sky. I'm talking about the people that are dismayed at the signs of heaven, like he said in Jeremiah 10. But he said, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars and upon the earth. What?
And upon the earth, distress of nations.
What does distress of nations got to do with the sun, moon, and stars in the skies? That's what we're talking about. It's all about context. Like we read last week in Daniel 11 when it talked about he ain't gonna have the desire of women, but it's talking about false gods. He honoring, and he ain't gonna have no respect to no woman deity. That's what it's talking about. But people think it's marriage. So what does distress of nature have to do with sun, moon, and stars or anything? It does, because it has. I'm talking about not the literal ones. I'm talking about spiritually speaking. That's who he's referring to. Distress of nations. This is the last part. We want to address this last part of this scripture. Go ahead.
With perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
We need to see what that means. The sea and the waves roaring. Because you can look what happened in Florida. The waves was roaring. That's what a hurricane is, right? A tornado in the sea or something, and the waves come across the land, right? That's what we should be looking for, right? We should be looking for a hurricane. A lot of hurricanes start happening. This is what he's talking about.
I don't think so.
Verse 28.
And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh.
All right. So what does the sun, moon, and stars falling and the sea and waves roaring got to do with anybody's redemption? Because we're in captivity and the world is being taken over or destroyed. Excuse me, not taken over, being destroyed by these world powers. They got to fall. They are destroying this earth. They eat everything out of the sea that ain't supposed to be eaten. Now the water messed up, killing all the swine that's supposed to eat up the garbage on the land. Now the world is a mess. You want to build more and more places. You're destroying habitats, natural habitats. You destroy the natural habitat and make a fake habitat to get money off of that. Like we read on doing trumpets, the Lord gonna destroy them that destroy the earth. Who was the one doing it? These sun, moon, and stars, these waves and all that. It say waves, don't it? It said in verse 25, the sea and the waves roaring. What's that? Who is that? If they talk about a hurricane, we got to go see, right? Let's go to Revelation 13. And we reading this because the lesson is Daniel 8, 2,300 days. It got something to do with the end times is what they claim. Or whoever teaches it, that's what they claim. So I figure I'll show you what it's really talking about. Revelation 13. Revelation 13th chapter. And verse 1. Revelations 13 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea.
Where was he standing at? And read that a little louder.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea.
So he's standing upon the sand of the sea. Everybody know what the sea is, right? Because we read about the sea and the waves roaring, right? In Luke 21. Didn't we see that? Okay, so he's standing at the sand of the sea. And what came out?
And saw a beast rise up out of the sea.
So this sea produced what? This beast. Having what?
Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Wait a minute. So this came out the sea? So the sea produced this wicked nation. Because that's what it's talking about. It ain't talking about, we ain't looking for a real beast, are we? Because we're going to pick and choose what we want to take. Literally, we shouldn't do that, right? Because this is talking about a beast coming out. Are we looking for that? Why ain't nobody looking for a sea monster then? Nobody looking for a sea monster, right? So why are you looking for the sun, moon, and stars literally to fall out the sky when that ain't gonna never happen? But it says the sea and the waves roaring. That's what we want. But we're looking at what this sea produced, a wicked nation. So this wicked nation came out the sea. Let's go into Isaiah. Showing you when these nations fall, that's he said your redemption is drawing nigh. That's why Babylon must fall. All these world powers have to fall. He has to destroy them. Now, how's he going to destroy them? He said the two-edged sword come out of his mouth. The same one that's in our mouth, right? But we got to be a part of this. We got to detach from this beast system. Isaiah 57. Isaiah 57 and verse 19. Isaiah 57 and verse 19. Look what it says. Go ahead and read.
I create the fruit of the lips. Peace. Peace to him that is far off, and to him that is near, saith the Lord, and I will heal him.
So he said, I create the fruit of the lips. Peace. Peace to him that is far off, and to him that is near, saith the Lord, and I will heal him. Peace to y'all. But what about these next people? Go ahead.
But the wicked are like the troubled sea.
Wait a minute, the wicked. See, just like this is what we're trying to show you. The sea and the waves roaring, that's referring to these wicked nations. Look what we read in Revelation 13, stood at the sand of the sea, and what came out?
Beast.
The beast, a wicked nation. You could have read about multiple wicked nations coming up. These nations had to be destroyed. But this is the distress among the nations you'll find, right? Waves roaring. He said, but the wicked are like the what?
Or like the troubled
He
seas.
called them. He said they're like the troubled sea. See, brother didn't say this. They are the sea. Don't worry about it. It said they are like the troubled sea. Go ahead and read.
But the wicked nations are like the troubled sea when it cannot rest, whose water cast up mire and dirt.
It said, but the wicked are like the troubled sea when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. Verse 21.
There is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked.
There is no peace, my God, says my God, to the wicked. Let's go into Isaiah the 60th chapter. Because we read in Luke 21, there's going to be distress among nations, the waves and the seas roaring. But he said the wicked, they like the trouble sea, and they produce what? Dirt and mire. What does that sea produce up there in Revelation 13? Wicked nation, right? Isaiah 60 and verse 5. Isaiah 60 and verse 5. Go ahead.
Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear.
No, read verse 3. I want to show you some context, give you some context here. Verse 3.
And the Gentiles shall come to thy light.
And the Gentiles shall come to thy light. That's the same thing in Matthew 5, right? The world gonna see your light. And they're gonna glorify God. See, we have to produce our light. That's that good fruit. We got to make the change in the earth, right? He said, the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and what?
And the king to the brightness of thy rising.
What else?
Lift up thine eyes round about, and see. All they gather themselves together. They come to see thee. Thy son shall come from far, and thy daughter shall be nursed, and thy daughter shall be nursed at thy side.
Right, the Lord is back at this time. Verse 5. Look what it say though.
Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear, and thy heart shall fear. Their heart shall fear and be enlarged.
It said, then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged. What?
Because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee.
The abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee? What are you talking about? Let's see what he's talking about. Go ahead.
The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee.
So the wealth of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. But it said, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. How is the sea going to convert unto you? Was the sea going to bow down to something? Or is it talking about the nations? Then it says, the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. I know. It looks like a stretch, don't it? Let's go into Jude. Let's go into Jude. The sea is representing these nations, as it's stated in Luke 21. This should clear it up here. Jude. This should clear it up here. Jude and verse 10. Jude verse 10. Jude verse 10. Go ahead and read.
But these speak evil of those things which they know not.
Ain't that what folks be doing? It said, but these speak evil of those things which they know not. That's why before you speak evil of anything, you better know what you're talking about. Go ahead and read.
But what they know naturally as brute beasts.
He said they only go with what they know naturally. So whatever, just because something feels comfortable to you don't make it right. They may hear something we saying up here and get uncomfortable and think, oh, it just didn't sit right with my spirit. But when you're doing something we find out is pagan, how come it's still sitting right? How come that don't sit right in your spirit? When we speak against paganism, but it sit right in your spirit when you're doing paganism. Why is that? What's in you? What is in you that you can't receive the truth, or you got a problem with it? What's in you? But you want to go with what feels good. That's a dangerous place because the heart is deceitful above all things. And what does it say? Desperately wicked. So the fact of you hearing something that your heart dropped, I don't know. Paganism in your heart don't drop. But you do what? But it feels comfortable, so it must be right. Wrong. Or we would have never came out of the delusions we were in previously if we only did things that felt good or what was comfortable. It said, but these speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally as what?
As brute beasts. And those things they corrupt themselves.
What else?
Woe unto them.
He yelling too. Woe unto them. What?
For they have gone in the way of Cain.
Now we're gonna have to do a lesson about what happened with Cain too. That's where these oppressive tactics started. This capitalist mindset, this worldwide plunder, this ancient city. It traces all the way back to Cain. Because he said, woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain. What is he talking about? Go ahead.
And ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward.
Oh, he ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward. See, everybody, like we mentioned, all these world powers just will destroy the earth for profit. Like you have homeless people sitting outside of $1 billion corporation. What's that about? But you won't help them. But you've been robbing them the whole time, though. You ain't been giving them, you ain't been splitting the private with them. You're the reason they sitting out there and won't help them. The Lord got to destroy y'all. Because it's all about money, greed, right? Taking over resources. But that's not what we want. It's good, though. He said, woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward and what?
And perished in the gainsaying of Kor.
Now let the Lord tell us about these people that operate this way. Go ahead.
These are spots in your feast of charity.
These are spots in your feast of charity. What else?
When they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear.
What did it say?
Clouds they are without water.
So it called them clouds with no water. What else did it say?
Carried about of winds. Trees whose fruit withereth. Without fruit. Twice dead, plucked up by the roots.
So it said they are clouds without water, carried about of winds. He called them trees whose fruit withereth, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. What else does he call them?
Raging waves of the sea.
Oh, they are called the raging waves of the sea. So who is he talking about in Luke 21 again? Those nations that rule the world. They got to fall. He called these individuals raging waves of the sea. What else?
Foaming out their own shame.
Foaming out their own shame. What else he called them?
Wandering stars to whom is reserved the
blackness. He called them wandering stars. That's the comment. He's supposed to pause. He said wandering stars. They got to fall, don't they? He said when the world is ending, these type of people, they're going to be upset. They're going to be distressed among the nations. So we're reading about the wicked individuals. Because what do we see coming out that sea? What did the sea produce in Revelation 13? A wicked nation. And we see it, the beast, the harlot ride down every nation. So he called them, verse 13, raging waves of the sea. What else he say?
Foaming out their own shame.
Foaming out their own shame. They putting stuff out that's shameful. They want you to accept it and okay it. Go ahead.
Wandering stars.
What else about them?
To whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
All right, that's good. Daniel 8. So we know the nation haven't fell yet, right? So we're still waiting on that. Daniel 8. Let's get it. Daniel 8th chapter. So you should don't worry about hurricanes or flooding. That's not about the end. That's not what that's talking about. It's talking about the distress of nations and these world leaders getting disrupted, about to fall. All right. Daniel 8:1. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 1. We're teaching Daniel 8. This is the 2300 days, right? So we're going to have to take a look if this is talking about the Pope and what he's going to do, or has this happened already? As we already established in Daniel 12, but after Daniel 8, it should be clearer than ever. Daniel 8:1, Lord willing. Go ahead.
In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel. After that which appeared unto me at the first, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace.
He said he was at Shushan in the palace. Go ahead.
Which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai.
Excuse me. Go ahead and read.
Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, And saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, and one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last.
All right. So he said he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other. So are we looking? Should Daniel or whoever gonna be here at this time be looking for a ram with two horns? No. What does it represent? The leaders who gonna head this nation. He said the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and what?
And the higher came up last.
And the higher one came up last. Go ahead and read.
I saw the ram pushing westward, and northward, and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Yeah, whatever ram this was, whoever this represent was cold. It said, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither what?
Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Man, when the Lord with you, he with you. When the Lord fighting for you, he fighting for you. And it was daytime. Whoever this is, it had to be daytime. Because he said you can deliver nobody out of his hand. Go ahead and read.
But he did according to his will and became great.
He did according to his will. He did whatever he wanted to do and became great. Go ahead and read.
And I was considering, behold, and he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
So he's sitting there now, considering, man, what's this, man? And as he was considering, behold, and he said the whole earth, what?
And touched not the ground.
And touched not the ground. Go ahead.
And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
So this goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Go ahead.
And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power.
Man, so whoever this is, it was colder. It said, and he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. Verse 7.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram. And brake his two horns.
Man, he thought the one before was cold. This other one came. He said, this goat, and it had a notable horn between his eyes. He said, and I saw him come closer to the ram in verse 7, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. Then what?
And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped it. He cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
See, when it's your time, correct? He said he cast him down. That wasn't enough. He stamped on him after. He said, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So when we find out what's going on in Daniel chapter 8, because it's confusing, we stop here, we ain't gonna know nothing. So once we figure out what time he's talking about, that'll help us better understand if this is some future stuff we need to be looking for, or if it happened already. So that's why we're taking our time to break this down, like we did in Daniel 12. Now we on Daniel 8, and we're gonna get down to this 2,300 days and what that consists of. So right now we're looking at the ram and the goat, and we see the goat came through and did his thing, right? Mm-hmm. And break the horns of the two rams. So in verse 7, he said, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Verse 8.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. Because nobody deal with him. He said the he-goat waxed very great, and what?
And when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
So in the midst of his strength, he was broken. Go ahead.
And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
And we took a stab at this last week a little bit. This is talking about. No, I ain't even gonna tell you. We're gonna let the Bible do it. All right. I mean, I let the cat at the bag last week. We're gonna walk it all the way down. So he said, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So these individuals will begin to rule. And I just go ahead and tell you, Cassander, Ptolemy, Seleucid, right? And Aragonus. Go ahead and read verse 9.
And out of one of them came forth the little horn.
Oh, out of one of them. Out of one of who?
A little one.
Out of the 4 horns that came up. So this is talking about the Greek Empire, and then we couldn't be looking for this to be concerning no pope building no temple and some Edomites gonna do this. Has nothing to do with no future nothing, do it. If this is the Greek Empire, then where are we getting this pope gonna build a temple with some Edomites gonna kill a red heifer and cleanse what? But Brother Ant did a lesson last night showing you all that doctrine that those false prophecies came from. That's false prophecy. That's what a false prophet does in cases. And they'll tell you can do paganism too. That's what a false prophet do as well. Just like he said in Deuteronomy 13, if a dreams tell you something and they come to pass, but then they turn around and say you can serve false gods, he said, don't worry about it. I ain't even send them. Matter of fact, kill them. That's why you shouldn't fear none of these folks. People be promoting paganism and you scared of what they say. We gotta read. You put your trust in the scriptures. You ain't gotta fear nobody. He ain't give us a spirit of fear. People put posts out there to scare people. Well, if you don't know nothing, of course you're gonna be scared. But when you start reading and studying, you realize what they saying. I don't know who. I'm just saying in general. When you realize what they saying don't make no sense because you read it. You ain't scared of that, man. That's false prophecy. We're gonna move on. Because he said, and out of one of them, verse 9. Came forth a little horn. Because you read little horn somewhere else, you think it's the same? No. If anybody's word matching, they're going to be in trouble. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which did what?
Which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and toward the pleasant land.
And what it do?
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
It waxed great, even to the who again?
The host of heaven.
The host of heaven. As we talking about literal stars in the sky. Because you can read in Revelation 12, the same thing happened. He cast some stars down. That Gentile dynasty did. What it say right here? And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. Go ahead.
And it cast down some of the hosts.
And it cast down some of the hosts. If you look at the term host, it's just a great number of people. Like we discovered last week. The children of Israel were considered the host. So it said, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And when you read heaven, you think, oh, it's talking about where the Father and Son at? No. Because he said, I'm in Deuteronomy 32 somewhere, he said, or Deuteronomy 4, one of the two. He said, if you get scattered to the one part of heaven or the other part of heaven. What you mean, third heaven? No. Talking about this earth. He said, the waxed great even to the host of heaven, down some of the hosts, and what?
And of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yeah, he
pay attention to what we read. We ain't trying to rush it. You in your zone, though. I ain't gonna hold you. You in your zone. But we trying to establish what we reading. So you telling me that this little horn is the Pope. And this is what I've taught. I'm only addressing what I've taught, just like any other era we've been taught. We just address it. Has nothing against anybody. The doctrine is what we focusing on. If we really trying to serve God, that should be all that matters. If we reading the Bible and it's coming out as we read it, and it's just what the scripture's saying, nobody should be upset. But people are being what is it called? Excommunicated or whatever, kicked out or made to feel less than, you name it, for just simply reading the Bible and seeing something different than what is traditionally taught. And then that's when you get into some cult stuff. But if you're just there for friendship and social, a social relationship, then you don't really care about this. You don't think it's a big deal. But it is a big deal if you're looking for something that ain't gonna never happen. And what is it causing you to do? What is it gonna cause you to do? To sit there and wait? Because what we getting taught is a fairy tale. It's going to be, you know, just a pathway to some secret location. And, you know, you're just waiting for that. You're waiting for the news article or the news flash on TV that the Pope is going to the holy place and he going to make it abominable. Well, did you know that the first sacrifice that takes place on that so-called Holy Land, that's going to be abomination already? The first tool they lift up to build what they claim to be God's holy, that's going to be abomination already. Matter of fact, the land is already abominable. Did you know they have Pride Month in that land you talking about? Do you know the people, the true priests are not there? Did you know that? The place is already abominable, but you're waiting on a pope to make it abominable. That would indicate that the land was pure before the pope got there. So you're telling me the Edomites, the Ashkenazis, the fake Jews, the Gentiles over there are when they sacrifice that red heifer, they're gonna purify it? They're gonna purify God's holy temple when they sacrifice a red heifer? Do you seriously believe that? But you can, I'm just asking. And it's not gonna be polluted till the Pope get there. I would believe I believe that's a mistake if you believe that. Because we're not taking our time, you know? Read 50 scriptures and it's not even talking about what the Bible's talking about. So that's why we're taking the time. That's why I said that. That's why we're taking the time. Because it say that and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. So you saying the Pope knocked some stars out of the sky, or the Pope knocked some angels out of the sky? Oh, no, let's talk about the power behind them. And it happened during the Greek Empire. That's when it happened. So let's be realistic here and not look for our own ideals, you know, what we want it to be. We got to let that go and just read it. So it said, "And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, this little horn, who came out of them four. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stand upon them." Verse 11.
Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
We know who that is, right? We established that last week. Who was that? Michael. He the prince of the host, right? Didn't it say it in Daniel 10? Let's read it one more time to refresh. Daniel 10, real quick. Daniel 10. Daniel 10 and 20. I just figured this is a refresher, because the scripture ain't going nowhere, so we can read them. Daniel 10 and 20. Daniel 10 and 20. Go ahead and read.
Then said he, "Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee?"
Now this is an angel. This is an angel. He know what he talking about, right? Go ahead and read.
And now I'll return, and now I'll return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I'm gone forth, the prince of Grecia shall come.
The who?
The prince of Grecia shall come.
Okay, what else?
But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth.
I'm going to show you what is noted in the scripture of truth. Go ahead and read.
And there is none that holdeth with me these things, but Michael, your prince.
Who? Who is Michael?
Michael, your prince.
Oh, he your prince. Okay, let's go back to Daniel 8. Just wanted to make sure. Just in case you didn't know who Michael represents, he's an angel of the Lord's presence as well. He represent God. So either way you slice it, if Michael's the prince of the host and he represents the Father and the Son or God himself, then it all fit. We don't have to try that hard. Verse 11 again.
Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Whoever this is took away the daily sacrifice, right? We read some of this in Revelation 12. I mean, not Revelation 12, but yeah, we did. But Daniel 12, we know some of this already. But we're showing you it's concerning the same individual. Who was it last week that we discovered it was? You remember his name? Antiochus. Epiphanes. Remember, he came out of the Greeks. This is him. So it said he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. And what did we establish last week in Exodus 29, I believe, in the weeks prior, Leviticus 6, that the only group of people that could do the daily sacrifice was who?
The Levites.
The Levites, specifically the sons of Aaron. So when it's referring to a daily sacrifice, the angel is letting him know about the daily sacrifice. He's not letting him know about no doggone Edomites. That is not the daily sacrifice. We're just trying to take it script by script and just read what it says. Verse 12.
And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
So somebody was transgression. That's the reason why he had power to do it. No wonder can nobody stand before him, huh? But we'll read that too. He said, and the host was given by him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And what did it do again?
And it cast down the truth to the ground.
Wait a minute. It cast the truth to the ground. How many Roman Catholics do you have? 1 billion. You got at least 1 billion. But you said when the Pope gonna cast the truth. Wait a minute. If he got 1 billion followers, how is the truth not already cast to the ground? Look what we still got to learn. We still got to learn that Father's Day pagan. We still got to learn that Valentine's Day is pagan. We still got to learn that Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas is pagan. We got to still learn that Mother's Day is pagan. We still got to learn birthdays is pagan. You got people in the truth promoting that left and right. I ain't seen those since we talked about birthdays. I ain't seen those so many happy birthdays. But that shows you want to do what feels comfortable. As a natural brute beast, like the Bible says. That's not a good place to be with God. He talked about these type of people being raging waves of the sea, stars, reserved for the midst of darkness. So the truth, my point is, the truth been cast down to the ground. But you saying the Pope gonna do it for 3? This is what we taught. This is not purged. This is what we've been taught. But we reading it slowly and it's starting to see. We ain't even went nowhere else yet. And by simple precaution and slowly going through this with a fine-tooth comb, we seeing some of the stuff is not making any sense that we've been taught. You got everybody in the days waiting for the internet or the TV to show the Pope or you waiting for the news flash to say, yeah, the Edomites or they're building a temple or they sacrifice the first animal. Now we just waiting on them. See, everybody just waiting. So they can get that call one day. Yeah, go meet me down here at the dock. We got this boat that's going to the middle of whatever. And you trust that. You trust that. That's tough. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And it's gonna be scary, man. It's gonna be scary. I mean, that's tough. Because we can't find none of this stuff in scripture that we've been taught to look for in the future. At least from what we're reading today. We didn't find that Daniel 12 so far. And right now it's not looking too good in Daniel 8. Because this is a Greek empire we're referring to, right? Not no Roman empire.
Came from the 4.
We'll see. So it said, and host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and what?
And it practiced and prospered.
So whatever he put his mind to, whatever he came up with, it worked. People try to say this is witchcraft or something. No, sir. Go ahead and read.
Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake.
All right, now we're getting into it now. It says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake what?
How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host be trodden? Let me start that over. Then I heard one saint speaking to another. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
So it said, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed after 2,300 days. This is the 2,300 days. This is what we're addressing today. Daniel 8 and the 2,300 days, like we addressed Daniel 12. And the times, and dividing the times, and a half. So he said, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice? Again, can't no Edomite do this. And the angel be talking about the daily sacrifice written up in the scriptures. Because what did he say in Daniel 10 at the end? I'm going to let you know about the scriptures of truth. This is what he was talking about. But he broke it down in the 11th chapter and the 12th chapter. But our focus is the 2300 about them cleansing the sanctuary. So you telling us, this is what we're being taught, that as long as the Ashkenazis are doing a daily sacrifice in the temple that is clean, and then the Pope gonna make it abominable, and then the Lord gonna clean it or destroy it? Which one? The Lord gonna clean it and sit in it after the Pope did it? Because it just say cleanse. It don't say he gonna destroy it or anything, do it?
They cleansed.
It says it's gonna be cleansed. So you telling me the fake Jews, I'm keep repeating myself because I want you to understand. And that should be okay. The fake Ashkenazis, no, they're not fake Ashkenazis, they Ashkenazi, fake Jews, gonna kill a red heifer and make Jerusalem clean and the sanctuary clean. And then the Pope gonna sit in this temple that it ain't even in the Bible that they're gonna build it anyway. The Pope gonna sit in it, make it abominable, and then the Lord gonna clean it and sit in it? That sounds crazy when you think about it. And this, we just trying to teach the Bible. That's it. So even Daniel, or the saint that stood next to that saint, asked, how long is what you talking about? How long is all this going to take place? With him coming up, doing this daily sacrifice going to be stopped, and he going to cleanse, the temple going to be cleansed. How long is it going to take? 2,300 days, which is like 6 months, 6 years, 3 months and something. I got it written down somewhere. We'll get it later. So he said, verse 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Verse 15.
And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as an appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Uli, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision.
Gabriel, make this man to understand what you have showed him, what the vision is. Go ahead.
So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for the time of the end shall be the vision.
Say end, so that means the end of the world, right? That means the end. That's mean when Jesus comes back. How? If it's talking about the Greek kingdom. Why did he waste his time mentioning the Greek kingdom and that the little horn out of this Greek kingdom would do all of this and then say, no, this is really when the Pope come and Jesus come back after that. Just because it say end, that's what I'm saying. If we word matching, we're going to be in trouble. Where we at?
We're 18.
18. So he said in verse 17, so he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Go ahead and read.
Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation.
Oh, now we got a little more clarity of what end is referring to, right? He said in verse 19, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of what? The indignation. Remember, he said by reason of transgression, this is going to happen. So the Lord going to be angry. I mean, we're not there in the land. This is happening. But we're going to get some understanding. He said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For what?
For at the time appointed, the end shall be.
For at the time appointed, the end shall be what? The end shall be of what? The end of the indignation and the temple cleansed. Let's go into the 20th verse, and then we'll break it down. Daniel 8 and 20. We still here. We just at the 20th verse now. Daniel 8 and 20. Go ahead and read.
The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
So we read about the ram, right? Which had two horns and one was higher than the other, right? He's telling you who it is, Media and Persia. So we know that was a long time ago, right? We had the Babylonian Empire, then the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Let's skip on down to verse 3 and let us just reiterate. Verse 3.
Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
Now we know what this is, right? We know who this is, right? This is who? Medo-Persia. Media and Persia, right? We know, clear as day. There's no dispute. Let's go back to verse 21. Daniel 8 and 21. We knocked out verse 20. Now we're knocking out verse 21. Go ahead and read.
And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
The rough goat is who? The king of Grecia. Alexander the Great. Go ahead.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So excuse me, the rough goat is the king of Grecia, is representing him. The first king. It said, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. How do we know? Verse 22.
Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it. Four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation.
Out of what?
Out of the nation.
What nation?
Grecia.
Huh?
Grecia.
Out of Grecia. This is happening with the Greek kingdom. Is that clear so far? Yeah, I know. We got one. It's good.
One person.
It said, now that being broken, that first king, the king of Grecia, the first king gonna be broke. And what came out? It said, and that being broken in verse 22, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation. But what?
But not in his power.
All right. Again, Seleucid, Ptolemy, Aragonus, and Cassander. Verse 5. Skip on down to verse 5. Daniel 8 and 5. Go ahead and read.
And as I was considering, behold,
Behold,
and he goat came from the west, came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and he touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Who was that? What we just read in verse 22 and 21 and 22. Alexander the Great. Skip on down to verse 8. Let's finish.
Therefore, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
And when he was strong, he was broken. So he died young. We established last week that he ruled for about 12 years. We may read it again. But he died in his strength. He was broken. And who came up again?
And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
The same thing we've been reading so far. 23, dealing with the Greek kingdom. Here we go. Verse 23. Go ahead and read.
And in the latter time of their kingdom.
So in the latter time of their kingdom. So it's at the end of their kingdom. What's going to happen?
When the transgressors are come to the full.
See, it talk about transgression again. When the transgressors are come to the full. What?
A king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up.
So a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Meaning this individual is going to be wicked. Go ahead and read. Verse 9. Verse 9.
And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land.
Very good. Do we need to, let me see if I got this on. You know we're going to bust this Maccabees open. We got to. Because it's still dealing with the same time period. Let me check on something. Yeah, we'll read it. We'll read it in a sec. Let me see. Yeah, we'll read it in a second. All right, verse 24. I know I skipped. Matter of fact, let me see. We may read it twice. Let's see. Where do we leave off at?
We just did.
Yeah, let's go to this Maccabees real quick. First Maccabees real quick. You can look at it online. First Maccabees in the Apocrypha. And we're going to read something about them real quick. Let me see if this is what I want. No, I don't have a slide for this one. I just wanted to read about this one coming up. Verse 7. So First Maccabees 1 and 7 real quick. We may read it again, but it's all good.
First Maccabees 1.
Just to establish this one who understood dark sentences, who came up at the latter end of their kingdom. This is First Maccabees 1. This is just history. It's laying it out for us. First Maccabees 1 and 7. Go ahead and read.
So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died.
Uh-huh.
And his servants bear rule everyone in his place.
Uh-huh.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years.
Many years, right? So it was a long time it was going on. Many years, what?
And evils were multiplied in the earth.
All right, so in the latter end of their kingdom, once y'all stand up, right? Go ahead.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes.
So a wicked root came out. So it says in verse 23, in Daniel 8 and 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And what does it say in First Maccabees 1? In verse 10, it says, and there came out of them a wicked root. What is his name? Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. God manifests. Go ahead.
Son of Antiochus the king.
Son of Antiochus the king, which Daniel 11 from the beginning started to talk about his father first, and then run they lineage all the way down to this one we're talking about. But we'll address that at another time. All right, go back to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8 and pick it up on the next verse, 24. You got a whole Bible right there. You're supposed to open it.
Ready?
You should open it. You should open your Bible and read along. Daniel 8 and 24.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Go ahead.
And through his policy also.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. So it said, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy who?
And shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
The mighty and the holy people been destroyed. Skip on down to verse 10. Go ahead.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them.
So we know who them stars and all that is then. Because it says in verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy who?
It shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
He shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So in verse 10 it says, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. This should be your holy people. All right, verse 25.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
They say craft, so they think automatically witchcraft. If you look up the word craft, it just means deceit or cunning. That's all it means. But everybody want to, hey, my man, chill. Yeah. Everybody want to turn all this stuff into like a Wi-Fi spooky movie. Like you really about to have red eyes or purple eyes or something like Ivan Ooze off the Power Rangers. He's going to be doing all type of magical stuff. That ain't what that means. You can look up, type it right now. Craft mean deceit. Where was we at? In verse 12?
We starting 25.
Verse 25. And it said that through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall he destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. He's going to stand up against the prince of princes. Told you who Michael ultimately represents. He represents God. So either way you slice it. All right. Verse 11.
Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Go into Daniel 12 and 1. So we know who your prince is, right? We read who Michael, right? He ain't Jesus. Don't get it twisted. He stands for the people. He protects the people. He fights for children of Israel. All right. And we'll read how he was fighting. Get into it. Daniel 12 and 1 real quick. Go ahead.
And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince was standing for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book.
Right, so what we established, this happened during set up the abomination of desolation and sacrifice swine's flesh and sprinkle broth of abominations everywhere. So let's go back to Daniel 8, and we're about to get into it. Daniel 8 and 14. Matter of fact, we'll read 13 and 14 one more time. And I forgot my little printout. Everybody brought their PowerPoint from last week, right? How you forget? I said keep it.
Kept it.
Oh, you kept it. I didn't keep it at home.
Kept it.
You got one? Give me yours, man. You let Luke outshine you. What?
Hey, Luke do his thing, man. Look for this one.
Oh, he got something else.
I think that's the.
Y'all bear with us and make sure everybody got it. See, y'all be getting it on the screen. Everybody here don't get it on the screen. Yep.
We can share.
You put a PowerPoint up for us. Not yet. We'll read it in a second. This one. It should say like D12 edited or something, or D12. It's D12. Just add it again from my library. D12. This joint cut off. This joint is cut off, man. I can't read this.
Picky.
You want to switch? All right, man. All right, well, you can read it on the screen with the rest of the live streamers. All right. So now, read 13 and 14, Daniel 8, 13 and 14.
Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation?
So everything we read up until this time, he was like, how long is this stuff going to take place? So it's going to be more than 3.5, ain't it? Because he's including what? He said, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? Go ahead.
And he said unto me, into 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
So all this is going to take place in 300 days, and then it's going to be cleansed. All the stuff he was talking about is going to be cleansed after that. So we got 1290 last week and all that, right? Concerning what the abomination of desolation and them instituting this sacrifice or stopping the daily sacrifice for 3.5 years. But we adding more onto it. We got the full time. From the time that the desolation is set up to them being trodden, the holy place being trodden underfoot, or the sanctuary, and it being cleansed. So we gotta run this thing down and see how long this is. So let's go into 1 Maccabees, chapter 4.
Excuse me.
1 Maccabees, chapter 4. 1 Maccabees, chapter 4. You be able to look at it online. If you don't feel comfortable, that's on you. But it's just history book. It's lined up with everything we've been reading. And that should be clear by now. All right, 1 Maccabees, chapter 4. First Maccabees, chapter 4. And let's see it started, getting started. So matter of fact, we're going to start from, since we already established this animal sacrifice and all that, we're going to start from the cleansing. We're going to start from the temple being cleansed. So we're going to go backwards. We already know the 3.5 years containing sacrifice. We already read that, but we're going to read it again. So I figure we'll start from the cleansing part and see if we work our way back how long that is. So 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 26. Go ahead and read.
Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened, who when he heard thereof was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. The next year, therefore, following Lysias, gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot.
So they were starting to rebel. Israelites were starting to fight back, and they wasn't having it. Lysias wasn't having it. So who did he grab? He said the next year they're following Lysias, gathered together how many? 70,000
choice men of foot.
That's 60,000 choice men of foot. And what?
And 5,000 horsemen.
So you got almost 70,000. Go ahead.
That he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura. And Judas met them with 10,000 men.
Judas Maccabees met them with 10,000. That's what we can read in the law in Deuteronomy 32. You please me, 1,000 gonna send 10,000 to flight. So imagine 10,000. How many they gonna send to flight? 100,000. So we're looking at the end. We starting with the cleansing. This is what we work it up. We're gonna work our way up or down, however you look at it. But the old school days is kind of weird. But we're gonna start with the cleansing. So he said, so they in verse 29, so they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. Go ahead.
And when he saw that mighty army,
what?
He prayed and said, "Blessed art thou, Savior Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gave us the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer."
So he's taking us back to the prophets and how the Lord fought for them. Go ahead.
Shut up this army in the hand of thy people, Israel.
So Judas is praying to the Lord. He says, shut up this army in the hand of thy people, Israel. Go ahead.
And let them be confounded in their power and horsemen.
Well, remember what we read in Daniel 11, they're going to be helping with a little help. Well, we looking at it. Because he said at that time, Michael shall stand up, right? Well, they beginning to fight and cleanse. So we're just putting the pieces together now. So he says, shut up this army in the hand of thy people, Israel. And what?
And let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee.
Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee. Well, they love him. So use our sword to cast them down. Go ahead.
And let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving.
And they wasn't talking about November 20 nothing. He said, cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. Verse 34, look.
So they joined battle. And there were slain of the host Osias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain.
Whoa. Right off the bat. Remember, 65,000 came. And right off the bat, they prayed to the Lord. Right off the bat, they killed 5,000 right there on the spot. Let's see what happened. Go ahead. Verse 35.
Now when Osias saw his army put to fight in the manliness of Judas's soldiers.
He said he saw the manliness of Judas's soldiers. Go ahead.
The manliness of Judas's soldiers and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly. He went into Antioch.
Antiochia.
Went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers. And having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again to Judea. Then said Judas to his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomforted. Let us go up to cleanse the sanctuary. Let us go up to cleanse it and dedicate the sanctuary.
So they was priests, they could do it, didn't they? They could do it. So this at the end, they was fighting. The Lord fought for them. Michael stood up for them, and they had them boys run off. And when they saw that they was confident, they ran off. And what did they end up doing? He said, then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to do what?
Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
They could do it, right? This makes more sense. They could cleanse and dedicate it. That's why they have a feast called the Feast of Dedication. That's why you can read it in John chapter 10. The Lord was in the temple during the time of the Feast of Dedication, representing exactly what happened here, how Michael stood up for these people, and these men had a valiant battle for the temple or the holy temple of God. So we're looking at the cleansing, because what did it say in Daniel 8? He said in verse 14 in Daniel 8 and 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So we're looking at the cleansing. We're going to work our way back. Are we seeing this being cleansed? Is it saying the same thing in Daniel chapter 8? Is this lining up with Daniel chapter 8? It's not hard to see. Verse 37.
Upon this, all the hosts assembled.
Did you see that word again? You read real fast. What did it say? All the who?
Host.
All the hosts. Referring to people again. The holy people. It said, upon this, all the hosts what?
Assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion.
Look what they seen when they went there.
And when they saw the sanctuary desolate.
When they saw the what desolate?
The sanctuary desolate.
Somebody did this. What didn't we discover last week? Who did it? Antiochus did it, didn't he? He had it going on for 3.5 years, and then he ended up dying. And when they was cleansing the temple here, he wasn't dead yet, because he died later around 164 sometime. We'll see when this was cleansed if you don't remember from last week. We'll read it all. But it said that when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and what?
And the altar profane.
And the altar profane. Go ahead.
And the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the court as a forest.
As in a forest.
Or one of the mountains. Yeah. In the priest chambers pulled down.
In the priest chambers pulled down. They destroyed everything. They defiled this. They polluted the sanctuary of strip, didn't they? He polluted it, didn't he? But you telling me that this ain't real, or this ain't. You can say this real, but they say, oh yeah, we still looking for the Pope to do this too. The only way for that I'm gonna be honest with y'all. The only way for that to take place, Israel would have to know who they is again, get cleansed, re-cleansed, get the olive oil that you had to make for the priest. They had to re-cleanse themselves, all that. But again, Jesus came, so we're not doing that till he come back. So the first animal they decide to kill, the place would be polluted already. Matter of fact, it's already polluted. The sanctuary, that's the temple of God. So look what happened when they saw this. That's why we picking up. That's why we went from Daniel 12 to Daniel 8. We looking at the cleanse, the end part. We're going to work our way back up. But Antiochus did all of this. But the Lord fought for them through Michael. And they going to cleanse his temple. So it said that when they saw the sanctuary desolate in verse 38, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and the shrubs growing in the courts as in the forest, or in one of the mountains, and the priest's chair was pulled down, verse 39.
They rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads.
Then what?
And fell down flat on the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
Man, how is this saying exactly what we read? Because it's true. Because it happened. So they still fight them all, even while they cleansing. They fought the rest of them all. They wasn't playing nothing. And that's why it was obviously important enough for Jesus, the Christ, Jesus, our Lord and Savior, to show up in the temple during the Feast of Dedication. Clearly. It said in verse 41, then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had what?
Until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
See, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So this is not happening in one day, is it? It's going to take time. It's going to bring us to 2300. We're going to make sure of that. Go ahead and read.
So he chose priests of blameless conversation. Oh.
Just like Ann went over last week or last night, confession or conversation. Same thing. It don't mean talking. It ain't always meaning talking. For the most part, when it comes to the Bible, your conversation is your action, your way of life, how you behave. So he chose priests of blameless conversation.
Such as had pleasure in the law.
It's a reason we're being explained this, because it's going to have something to do with this 2300. We can read about a wicked individual. How Antiochus come do all this stuff. Excuse me. Go ahead and read.
Who cleansed the sanctuary? Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into the unclean place?
Into an unclean place. Skip on down to 47. Skip on down to 47.
Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former.
It said, then they took whole stones according to the what?
Then they took whole stones according to the law.
All right, hold that. Go to Exodus 20. Didn't you read something in Exodus 20? Is it Exodus 20? It might be 19. But I think it's 20. Exodus 20. They made a new altar according to the law, Exodus 20 and verses 24 and 25. Go ahead and read.
An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me.
And what?
An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me. And shall sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings and thy peace offering and thine oxen. In thine oxen in all places where I record my name, I will come into thee and I will bless thee.
Who was he talking to? Israel, ain't he? The priest specifically. Go ahead and read.
And if thou wilt make an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone. But if thou lift up thy tool, for if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it.
Wait a minute. So if you even lifted up a tool to build this altar, it would be polluted. So you could even getting taught that the Edomite is going to do this stuff and it's not going to be polluted. That would be impossible. Maccabees in the go back, because that means they didn't lay no tool upon it, did they? That's what I'm saying. Open your book and read along. Telling you. Where we at?
We just finished 40. We just finished 47.
First Maccabees 4.
Maccabees 4
and 47. Read 47 again. First Maccabees 4 and 47.
Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former.
Uh-huh.
And they made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts. They made also into the temple they
made what vessels?
Also new holy vessels.
The priests did, didn't they? Go ahead.
And they made also new holy vessels, and into the candlestick, in the altar of burnt offerings and incense, in the table.
But the Edomites claim they're doing this now. And they're supposed to be talking about the Edomite. You got to be kidding me. This is a joke, man. I'm sorry. This is a joke. Go ahead and read.
And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils, and spread out the vials.
But the Ashkenazis is gonna do it in this part of prophecy. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. Go ahead and read.
Furthermore, they set up loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called Caslu, said the last time too. Caslu, in the 140 and 80 year, they rose up betimes in the morning.
In the 140 and what year?
The 140 and 8th year, they rose up betimes in the morning. And offer sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made.
Right, the daily sacrifice. They restored it back, right? But we got a date now. It's in the 148th year. We're not really concerned with their dates in here. We'll just go to what? History. All right, what history are we going to? Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 14. You see that up there? You got it up there on the screen? Yeah, put that up on the screen for us. You got a date when they cleansed it and stuff, right?
140 and 8 years.
All right, let's see when it was cleansed. It's up there. Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 14. Maccabees. We read some of this last week. I think we read the whole thing last week. But we want to pull something out of here. Man, it don't hurt to read it again. No, we'll read it. We'll read that part later. Verse in 166, Matthias.
In 166, Matthias died after nominating Judas as their leader. The military genius of Judas made this the most stirring chapter in Israelite history.
Judas Maccabees, that's what we was reading about, who called on the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
And said, fight for us. He was the one still fighting when they was cleansing the temple, right? Fighting them off. He said in the 66, Matthias died
after nominating Judas as their leader.
After nominating Judas as their leader, the genius of Judas made this the most stirring chapter in history. Go ahead and read.
In quick succession, he overthrew the Syrian generals Apollonius, Saron, and Gorgias. And after the regentless,
what does it say?
The region Lysias had shared the same fate at his hands. He restored the temple worship in 165.
So he restored the temple worship in 165. 165, right? Remember what the angel has said, 2,300 days, and it's going to be cleansed. So we're looking at the end right now. We're going to work our way back. So in 165, right, it was cleansed, right? If that's not good enough, one witness ain't good enough, is it? You know, they're not going to let me slide. Where else we got? We got a history of the Jews. A history of the Jews by Solomon Grazel, page 78. The Lord preserved a lot of our history through these Gentiles, man. This ain't no accident. Is it big enough? Because you can use this one.
I'm good.
Matter of fact, yeah. All right, history of the Jews. A history of the Jews by Solomon Grazel, page 78. Let's read at the end where it said they took apart.
They took apart the arch. They took apart the altar which had been defiled by pagan sacrifices and put aside its stones.
Ain't that what we just read, right? In Maccabees. That's what we read. Yeah. And we know who caused this, Antiochus. And how long did he do it for? We read that. It took 3.5 years last week. Anyway, we're looking at the cleansing. We got to make sure it say cleansing one more time. Go ahead.
They erected a new altar in its place.
Exactly
3 years after the desolation, after the desolating abomination had been introduced into the temple, they ground this statue of Zeus Antiochus into dust and rededicated the temple to the worship of God, beginning with the 25th of
Caslu.
That was 165 BCE. They celebrated the dedication feast.
So in 165, again, that's another witness. The temple was cleansed in what year, everybody? Yes, I got more than one. 165, it was cleansed. Let's go into 2 Maccabees. And let's see if we can get, matter of fact, let me give you the account. Pull up that joint that say 2,300 days on it. Just read that. You see that slide? You got the 2,300 day slide up there? Because in 165, right?
You're gonna read this,
just read it, read the whole thing, because we're going to get into that next one in 171. Go ahead.
2,300 days equals 6 years, 3 months, and 20 days.
2,300 days, 6 years, 3 months, 20 days. So what happened?
Okay. Caslu is December. It's 165 BCE. The temple was cleansed.
Then we read that in his Maccabees, right? The temple was cleansed in 165, right? So what's next? When did it start? It would have to be 6 years prior, right? Go ahead and read.
In 171 BCE, the beginning of indignation. Menelaus, the false priest.
And what did he do?
He had assault against the temple in 171 into 165 when cleansed by Maccabees.
So let's see if who this priest is and how it relates to this 2,300 days. Antioch is in. Who let him in? Who made way for all this to happen? When did this start? When did this desecration? When did this pollution? When did it start? We're gonna come back to that. Let's read it out of the Maccabees first. 2 Maccabees, chapter 4. 2 Maccabees, chapter 4. Don't let nobody tell you what you can study for history. Don't let nobody do that. It's the same people that tell you what you can't do or don't go into other books or don't look at, they use other books. You got people using all type of different encyclopedias, Last 2 million years, Atlas of the Bible. You would be okay reading some of the books even they wrote. That'd be okay, but they decide what's okay for us to study. And that's when hypocrisy come in. And then it's taught by the precepts of men. And you're going to find yourself in a terrible, terrible situation. 2 Maccabees 4 and verse 7. 2 Maccabees 4 and 7. So we mentioned Menelaus up there in 171. We gotta see. We gotta see about him. Let's see how this all got started. So we started with the ending. Now we're going to see how this stuff came to pass. Verse 7.
But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver, and another revenue 80 talents.
So he was trying to pay his way into taking over. Onias, let's read. Matter of fact, we can read about him a little bit. Jump into the third chapter real quick. Let's see. Jump into the third chapter. Third chapter of Maccabees, second Maccabees. Get a little understanding on Onias. Verse 1.
Now, when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and the laws were kept very well.
So this is everything's smooth right now, right? It said, now when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and the laws were what?
And the laws were kept very well.
Why?
Because of the godliness of Onias, high priest, and his hatred of wickedness.
Because of Onias, high priest, and his hatred of wickedness. But in the next chapter, we're going to read about his brother who overtake him underhandedly. Go ahead.
We're still going.
Yeah, stay there in the chapter.
Oh,
I want to give you a little righteous. He hated wickedness. Go ahead. He was high priest. And this is how people who claim position, you better hate wickedness too. Go ahead.
It came to pass that even the king placed and magnified the temple with their best gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so much that
Seleucus
of Asia, of his own revenues, bear all the costs belonging to the service of the sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
But one Simon of the tribe of Benjamin, who was made governor of the temple, fell out with the high priest about disorder of the city.
So they fell out about disorder in the city. Go ahead.
And when he could not overcome Onias, he got him to, I can't pronounce that name again.
Who? Where you at?
I'm at 5. He got him to
Apollonius,
the son of Traces, who was governor of Seleucia in Phoenix.
Look what happened. This is how it got started. We try to work our way. We try to see when it got started because we read about 171. We're gonna find our way there. So we're looking at how this came to pass, even how the abomination and when did this pollution start. So we're looking at a righteous high priest, and we're gonna start to get into some detail about how it got started with the polluting and all of that, what took place, and we're looking at it a little bit, even though it's not on the paperwork. We're looking at the situation a little bit beforehand. So what happened? What did it all start? 6.
And they told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money.
The treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money.
So that the multitudes of their riches, which did not pertain to the account innumerable, and that it was possible to bring all into the king's hand.
Simon fell out with Onias and then went over there to the king after Seleucus died and said, man, it's a whole bunch of, it's infinite money over there in the temple. So what happened?
So when Apollonius came to the king, and had showed him of the money whereof he was told, the king chose out Helodurus, his treasurer, and sent him with a commandment to bring him the foresaid money.
Oh shoot! You got all that in Jerusalem? I need that back. Go ahead.
So forthwith Helodurus took his journey under a color of visiting the cities of Seleucia and Phoenix, but indeed to fulfill the king's purpose.
So you act like he had something else to do, but he was really coming to fulfill the king's purpose. Go ahead and read.
And when he was come to Jerusalem and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, he told him the intelligence he was given of the money, and declared wherefore he came, and asked if these things were so indeed.
So he came to the high priest and let him know, man, I heard y'all got a lot of stuff here. I want to see. It say he came by intelligence, right? All right, go ahead.
And the high priest told him that there was such money laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children.
So he had all this money, and who was it for? The relief of who?
Widows and fatherless children.
Is that happening for people today? I think not. So we need to reevaluate what we're doing in these so-called churches. Just taking people money. Don't help nobody, or you help who you know. But let's go back into the 4th chapter. Just wanted to let you know who Ananias was. So back in 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and read that 7 again.
Ananias seeing the danger. Oh, we said 7.
Yeah, back to where we was at, 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 7.
But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest.
This is where it's leading right into here in this next chapter. Somebody want to take Onias' spot. Go ahead and read. So he started paying Antiochus,
promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and other revenue 80 talents.
Just let me get this spot. I pay you. Go ahead.
Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have a license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training up of youth and fashions of the heathen.
Right. So we read this last week as well. He was like, build training facilities to raise them up in the customs of the heathen or the fashions of the heathen. And that's what we're doing now, right? Don't everybody, after you get done playing ball and stuff, you want to be a doggone coach, right? You want to be a coach and raise them right up into the youth, raise the youth right up into the Greek customs and fashions, don't you? And where's that coming from? Instead of raising them in the word of God and teaching them the laws and statutes and commandments, how to love one another, the true gospel of Jesus Christ, you don't teach them that. You teach them how to, the customs of the Greeks. Go ahead.
And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antioch, of the Antiochians. Which when the king had granted and he had gotten into his when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, his forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashion.
He said, which when the king had granted, all right, he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. And why do you think we operate the way we do? Everybody want to be an athlete and all that, right? And put God to the side. That's what we're doing now, right? All right, skip on down to 13.
Now such was the height of Greek fashions. And increase of heathenish manners, though the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest.
He wasn't no real high priest. We read about the real one, Onias. He said the land was great. He said the holy city was happy with all peace, and the laws were kept because of the godliness of Onias, the high priest. But this Jason who bought the priesthood, right? They said, man, he was a witch. He an ungodly witch. He ain't no high priest. So you got to be, see, they was honest back then. Now, not so honest. If you try to be honest with people, they talk about you and all that. Claim you this and you don't, I never respect them. No. They talked about him. You ain't no real high priest. You encourage this. No doggone high priest. He said, now such was the height of Greek fashion, increase of the heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest. Come on now, go ahead and read.
That the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hasten to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise.
So they put down their priestly duties to go be concerned about exercise, going to games and all that. Go ahead, what it say?
After the game of discus called them forth.
They was going to run to see the sporting event. That priesthood can wait. We got this discus game to go to. And you think it's godly. But you're putting down the priesthood. Oh, yeah, I can't answer right now. I'm at the come on, man.
The discus.
Going on. Keep going.
Not setting by the honors of their
They
fathers,
said we're not even set. They weren't even setting by the honors of their fathers. They want to do what the Greeks do. Go ahead.
but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all.
Don't we like the glory of the Grecians? You want a trophy, don't you? Yeah, they do the discus game in the Olympics.
That's a tracking. Yeah, that's one of the fielding events.
They do it regardless. It's all Greek stuff. Go ahead.
By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them.
What? By reason where what?
By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them.
Uh-huh.
For they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they follow earnestly, and unto whom they desire to be like in all things.
These are your enemies and avengers, but you want to be like them. Go ahead.
For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God.
Did you know that it ain't a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God? It's not a light thing. So with attitude like you do something wrong and God just gonna have mercy on you, that's not good. That's not a good mindset. And that's why you have people doing the same sin every year, repeating the same stuff. But he tell you in Hebrews chapter 6, once you taste the holy gift of God, you taste the Holy Ghost, ain't no room for repentance. That's why I was going to do it on Wednesday, but it didn't happen. When you start doing stuff with that mindset, you start doing stuff anyway, it's called what? We call it a conscience killer. Meaning the next time you do it, it's going to be easier. Then the next time you're not even thinking about it no more. It's second nature. Now God just going, we all filthy rags. You start saying stupid stuff like that, and that ain't what the scripture talking about. He didn't say that so you can do whatever you want and God understand. But you're going to be, like they say in Ephesians 4, you are past filling like the Gentiles. He said they are past filling, giving themselves over to lasciviousness and to work all uncleanness with greediness. You don't have no feelings no more. You just do it. Because you've been killing your conscience since you got into the word. Because somebody said, yeah, it's go, I'll be doing it too. Then you think they know the Bible, so you follow them. You're going to fall into a death trap. Matter of fact, it might be too late. I don't know. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God, but what?
But the time following shall declare these things.
Skip on down to 23.
3 years afterward, Jason sent. How you pronounce that again?
Menelaus. Now we getting there. I know we just got to break this stuff down. So much info. It's just so much in there. He said 3 years afterward, Jason sent who?
Menelaus.
Go ahead.
The aforesaid Simon's brother to bear the money unto the king and to put him in mind of certain necessary matters. But he being brought to the presence of the king, when he had magnified him for the glorious appearance of his power, got the priesthood to himself.
So Menelaus got the priesthood to himself, didn't he? Let's see.
Offering more than Jason by 300 talents of silver.
300 talents of silver, it's like 6 million is what I read, but the numbers be all over the place. You never know. But that's what it gave me. So he said he offered 300 times more than Jason by 300 talents of silver. All right, verse 25. Let's see if they got anything to do with this 2,300. Go ahead.
So he came with the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast.
So he came with the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast. This will be ruling the people now. That's why they gotta fall. Verse 26. No, verse 32. Let's skip on down. Let's get to it.
Now Menelaus, supposing that he had gotten convenient time, stole certain vessels of gold out of the temple and gave them to Andronicus. And some he sold into Tyrus and the cities round about.
So Menelaus, suppose that he had got a convenient time because he assumed it. He got it now. He bought it. And look what he doing. Remember, this pollution is starting to happen. He stole from the temple of God to go pay somebody else. Don't be surprised if it's happening now. He will steal from your little tithe money, they'll steal and go pay other folks to take it because they needed or something. But don't let you ask for it. But this is not nothing new. These same spirits are here present today. Now, Menelaus, suppose that he had gotten a convenient time, stole certain vessels of gold out of the temple. How long was it going to take? He said in Daniel 8 and 13, then I heard one saint speaking to another saint. Excuse me, he said, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be clean. So the desecration or the pollution is starting to take place with who? Menelaus, stealing from the temple of God, ain't he? Go ahead and read.
And gave some of them to Andronicus. And some he sold into Tyrus and the cities round about.
What else?
Which when Onias knew of a surety, he reproved him and withdrew himself into a sanctuary at Daphne that lays by Antiochia. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hands.
So Onias, a righteous high priest, the true high priest, talked to him about what he was doing and what he tried to kill him. So much for standing up for the truth, liking you. That's not going to happen. You try it out. I bet you they try to do something to you. Speak about any evil or indecencies you see wherever you go, and watch what happens. Same thing going on here.
What verse is that? I clicked.
Verse 34. Go ahead. Say wherefore.
I got it, yeah. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hands, who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Onias in deceit.
Coming to Onias in deceit. Go ahead.
Gave him his right hand with oaths.
Wow.
And though he was suspected by him, yet persuaded he him to come forth of the sanctuary, whom forthwith he shut up without regard of justice.
Yeah, and he ended up getting murdered. Skip on down to 39. Go ahead.
Now when many sacrileges had been committed in the city by the
consent. It said, now when many sacrileges had been committed in the city by Lysimachus with the consent of Menelaus, and the bruit thereof was spread abroad, the multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus, many vessels of gold being already carried away. So it said all these sacrileges was happening, but who was supposed to be in this little priesthood or whatever? Menelaus. So this desecration of the temple took place when Menelaus got in there. Skip on down to 50. Go ahead.
And so through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority.
And so through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority. Of course. You was kicking off all the gold of God and all that. You was paying them off. You was swinging it. So you polluted the sanctuary. This started with Israelite, huh? It's always us working with the government or the evils. You helped them. Who was the Pharisees working with? They were trying to work with Pontius Pilate to get, and they were successful. You got wicked Israelites in every generation. So what he said, and so through covetousness of them that were of the power of Menelaus remain still in authority, increasing what?
Increasing in malice and being a great traitor to the citizens.
You open the door for Antiochus to do what he do. Remember, he had came already. We'll read it. Matter of fact, don't let me jump the gun. Let's go into the Jewish Encyclopedia. I know it's a lot of info, but it's needed so you know what you're talking about. You know what you're dealing with. You could be looking for something that ain't gonna never happen. You know the memes they put on Facebook, right? You got the skeleton sitting looking in the window. You looking for the Pope to start the tribulation or whatever they say. All right, the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 8, Menelaus. When he start doing all this stuff? You know.
Well, so he's known as Onias too.
Yeah,
also as Onias.
It's like a position.
Okay.
Like because he was the high priest.
Gotcha.
Onias is like the epitome. Like he was the true high priest.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Menelaus, because he tried to take the place. He took the place of Onias. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and read Menelaus, the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 8. Menelaus. Go ahead.
High priest from 171 to about 161 BC.
High priest from about 171 to when?
161 BC.
Yeah, he probably was a high priest somewhere else. High priest or whatever God he was serving, because we saw the temple was cleansed. But we looking at when he got started. 171. How many years from 165 is that? 6 years. Is this a coincidence that this desolation or desecration of the temple or defilement or pollution of the temple is starting with him? And it's literally 6 years before it was cleansed? Is that a coincidence? I think not. What else? Is that it?
Successor of Jason, the brother of Onias III.
There we go. That's all we wanted. We just wanted to see Menelaus and when he got started. When this stuff started happening. 171, he brought this stuff in. All right. Daniel 8. Feel free to look at all this history on your own. It ain't going to change. It's in there. Daniel 8. Daniel 8 and 8. Go ahead and read.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and toward the pleasant land.
Yeah, we got this in here twice. We read this already. It's about this wicked root coming up. We read this. We ain't got to read that again. Go to read verse 10. Daniel 8 and 10. We ain't got to read those 2 again. We read that.
8 and 10.
Because we was looking at that wicked root that came up. And let me check. Let me be sure though. With it. Yeah, we good. We read all this.
So we're gonna go with 10.
You know what? Yeah, we good. You can read that if you want to read it later. We already read this stuff. So to read Daniel 8 and 10. Okay. You can read it again on your own. Daniel 8 and 10.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them.
Go, keep going.
Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
All right, verse 24.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Remember, this all started by reason of transgression. Reason of transgression, right? And we saw the transgression started with who? Menelaus. Then you have priests putting away their duties to go to the discus game. Are we good? Can they see me? Oh, they can't see me? Here you go. But I'll wait till y'all can see me real quick. One second, we're getting the picture back. Is it back? Yeah, it's back. Are we back? Yeah. All right. Verse 24. It said, "In his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power." Remember, it said by reason of transgression. He said, when the transgressors are come to the full. All right. Let's go into let's see. Second Maccabees. Let's go into Second Maccabees 5 real quick. Second Maccabees 5. And it said he said in by his power, in his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He needed some help. And if we would have, when we did the abomination that maketh desolate, we read the book of Wars, Josephus, and we could have read where when Titus came in, he was like, and he was thinking of how they were destroying Jerusalem, how great these temples are. Something else has got to be happening. Something else got to be going on. Because ain't no way we should be able to destroy this place like this. Are we good? All right. So we reading this. He said, not by his own power. Second Maccabees chapter 5, verse 17. Go.
And so haughty was Antiochus in mind.
So haughty and proud was Antiochus in his mind. Go ahead.
That he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eye was not upon that place.
He wasn't considering that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city. Like we established last week, the first abominable, the abomination of desolation set on the altar happened in 168. When they first sacrificed to, who was it, Jupiter or somebody. So he didn't consider that. But we see when Menelaus came in, they was already doing wickedly against God, right? And we read that it's not a light thing to go against or do wickedly against God. So Antiochus was high and considered that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city. And what?
And therefore his eye was not upon that place.
Right. He said something similar to this, like in Hosea 7, I believe, or Amos. He said, I'm gonna go to my own place and see until they recognize me. Verse 18.
For had they not been formerly wrapped in many sins.
So before he came, right? Before he came through with the desolation or the abomination of desolation, he said, before he had came through, he said, for had they not been formerly wrapped in many sins, the man, as soon as he had come, had forward been scourged and put back from his presumption, as Helidorius was, whom Seleucus the king sent to view the treasury. We didn't read that story. We read a little bit when we was looking at Onias, but we would have kept reading. Remember when he came down to go view the temple and the treasures? Well, that's what Helidorius ended up getting whooped on and sent back to the king. He said if Israel had not have been sent, Antiochus would have been sent back the same way. Verse 19.
Nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place's sake, but the place for the people's sake. And therefore the place itself that with them of the adversity that happened to the nation did afterward communicate in the benefit sent from the Lord. And as it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty, so again the great Lord began the great Lord being reconciled. It was set up with all glory.
And that's the 2,300 days. So it said, and therefore the place itself, that was the adversity that happened to the nation, did afterward communicate in the benefit sent from the Lord, as it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty. So again, the great Lord being reconciled, it was set up with all glory. But let's go back to this Daniel 8, because it said he shall not, he said in his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So it's because Israel had transgressed, right? All right, what else?
What verse we
This
on?
is Daniel 8 and 24. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Daniel 8 and 24. Back in Daniel 8.
And he shall destroy wonderfully,
Uh-huh.
and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
So it said that he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper and practice. Let's go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 5. We'll pick it up at verse 1 this time. All right. Go ahead and read.
About that same time, Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt. We're going to 5.
2 Maccabees chapter 5 and 1. Oh, yeah. Skip down to 5. I'm bugging. I ain't even looking at the paper. Go ahead and read.
Now, when there was gone forth a false rumor, as though Antiochus had been dead, Jason took at the least 1,000 men and suddenly made an assault upon the city. And they that were upon the walls being put back, in the city at length taken, Menelaus fled into the castle.
So Antiochus came in and took all the temples, gold and all that, or most of it, and he left. And then when he was going to take down Egypt, the second time he was trying to go into Egypt, they were saying that Antiochus is dead. It was a rumor. So folks were like, oh, it's over. So go ahead to verse 6.
But Jason slew his own citizens without mercy.
So it said Jason slew his own citizens without mercy.
Not considering that to get the day of them of his own nation would be a most unhappy day for him, but thinking they had been his enemies and not his countrymen whom he conquered.
So Jason killing the saints too. He said, but Jason slew his own citizens without mercy, not considering that to get the day of them of his own nation would be a most unhappy day for him, but thinking they had been his enemies and not his countrymen whom he conquered. You working for Antiochus. You working for Satan. Skip on down to 11. You destroying the holy people. Go ahead.
Now, when this that was done came to the king's car, he thought that
came to his car, cuz. What did it say?
Now when this that was done came to the king's car,
his ear, man. That's what it say. Car ear in there.
Yes, yeah,
you gotta get you a hard copy.
I gotta get it from.
Yeah. He said, now when this was done, it came to the king's ear.
Yeah, I got you.
He thought what?
He thought that Judea had revolted. Whereupon, removing out of Egypt in furious mind, he took the city by force of arms.
He took the city by what?
By force of arms, and commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as they went up upon the houses.
He said arms gonna stand on this part, right? And Daniel 11. But who was he destroying? He said he would destroy the holy people. Whatever he gonna prosper in practice and destroy the mighty and holy people. So what's going on when his ear heard it? What did he say in verse 12 again?
And commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as went up upon the houses.
Who was he doing? Who was he destroying? Go ahead.
Young and old, making a way of men, women, and children, slaying of virgins and infants. And there was destroyed within the space of 3 whole days 80,000, whereof 40,000 were slain in the conflict.
Whoa, 80 in 3 days. Whereof 40,000 were slain in the conflict, and no fewer sold than slain. So 40,000 was slain, 40,000 was sold. Go ahead and read. This is some of the stuff we read in Daniel 11.
Yet was he not content with this.
Right. Captivity and spoil many days, right? He said, yet was he not even content with this. What?
But presumed to go into the most holy temple of the world. Menelaus.
He says of all the world.
Of all the world. Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide.
What? Who let him in there?
Menelaus.
Menelaus let him in there. Who started this stuff? A whole Israelite did. Trying to buy the priesthood, but they bought the priesthood and sold your people out. So it said that he shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. Keep reading.
And taking the holy vessels with polluted hands. Wow. And with profane hands pulling down the thing that were dedicated by other kings to
The augmentation.
The augmentation, the glory and the honor of the place, and he gave them away.
He gave them away. Skip on down to 21.
So when Antiochus had carried out of the temple 1,800 talents, he departed and all hastened to Antiochia, weaning in his pride to make the land navigable and the sea passable by foot. Such the hardiness of his mind.
He thought he could make the land navigable and the sea passable by foot. Such was the hardiness of his mind. Look how proud and lifted up he was. He said he would magnify himself against the prince of hosts. Go ahead and read.
And he left governors to vex the nation.
He left governors to vex the nation. So he did all this and left for a little bit. But who let him in though? Then we saw Menelaus let him in there. Go ahead.
At Jerusalem, Philip, for his country, Phrygian, and for manners more barbarous than he that set him there.
It said he left governors of vex the nation in Jerusalem, Phrygian, and for manners more barbarous than he that set him there. He was worse. Go ahead.
In that Garism, Andronicus, and besides Menelaus, who worse than all the rest bear an heavy hand over the citizens.
He was worse than all of them. He the whole Israelite, and he was worse than all of them. Bear a heavy hand over.
Having a malicious mind against his countrymen, the Jews.
Man, going to 1 Maccabees 1. 1 Maccabees 1. So we see in 171, it's lining up. Menelaus is responsible for all this stuff at the beginning. He led Antiochus in there. Is that what we're seeing so far? He let him in there, right? He started all this desecration and desolations. It'll take time to work it out. We're just looking at how it went down. 1 Maccabees 1 and 16. 1 Maccabees 1 and 16.
Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of two realms.
This is take us into Daniel 11 with him going into Egypt and stuff. But we'll address that when we break down the whole chapter, or we'll break down Daniel 11. What else?
Are we going to 20?
Yeah, skip on down to 20. Is that what we want? Yep, skip on down to 20.
And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. He entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and the vessels thereof, and the table and the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He also took the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and the elders mourned. Virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of the women was changed.
I bet.
Even the bridegroom took.
Every bridegroom took up lamentation.
Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness.
What else?
The land was moved. The land was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
That was the first time. Go ahead.
And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute into the city of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with great multitude.
So it said in Daniel 8 and 24, and his power shall be mighty. Daniel 8 and 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully. Ain't that what we're seeing? And shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. Ain't that what we seen? That's what we seen them doing, didn't we? Remember, this is the Greek Empire. This is the Greek kingdom we're reading about. This is the same empire Daniel's writing about. Daniel 8 and 25. Going to the next verse. Daniel 8 and 25. Go ahead and read.
And through his policy, also he shall call craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace he shall destroy many.
Let's take a stab at this one. Let's break down this verse a little bit. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Craft, deceit, cunningness. Let's go see it. Let's go back to this First Maccabees and pick it up at 29 again. First Maccabees 1 again, right where we was at, and pick it up at 29 again. We'll just read further this time.
After 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute into the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with great multitude, and spake peaceable words until all was but all was deceit.
It said that through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. It's deceit, trickery.
Spake peaceable.
It said in verse 30, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. Go ahead.
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel.
What else?
And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and the children they took captive and possessed the cattle.
But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. We read this last week in Daniel 11, where he was at. He was taken by captivity, right? And spoiled. But go ahead and read.
Are we gonna keep going?
Keep going to verse 37.
Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it strong and made it a stronghold for them.
That's verse 37.
Oh, they said 237. My bad.
Go ahead, verse 37.
Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Go ahead.
And so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
So we saw Menelaus in 171. He started stealing. We saw Antiochus come in the first time, and then he took all the gold out. Well, he wasn't wasting no time. He came and left. I did it after 2 years. He came back, right? And this is what he did. Skip on down to verse 41.
Moreover, to his whole kingdom, that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
So this is some of the stuff we read, breaking down Daniel 12. We bring more info about this 2,300 days and how that got started. It started with Israel working with Antiochus and defiling and bringing the desecration in. We saw Menelaus, the one who led Antiochus in. He guided them in. That's why in Daniel 11 said he's going to have intelligence with those that forsake the Holy Covenant. He had intelligence. He knew what was going on, right? Then at first it started with Seleucus. He knew about what was in the temple, how it was full of riches and all that. And once Antiochus heard about it, he coming in next. And then after 2 years, he came back. It said in verse 37, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Verse 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Verse 42 again.
And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah.
Skip on down to verse 48, right? Go ahead.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with the manner of uncleanliness and profanation.
Wow. He said just live it up. Don't even circumcise your children at this time. Just live according, do what you want to do. What was the reason? Verse 49.
To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to that commandment of the king, he said he should die.
What else? Skip on down to 53, excuse me.
And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure.
All right, now we get another day. Go ahead.
Now the 15th day of the month Caslu in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the city of Judah on every side.
All right. So it said in verse 25, Daniel 8 and 25, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So we looked at him destroying many. He set up the abomination of desolation after the 2 years later, after he came. And we read last week that was in 168. So what we're looking at today is the 2300 days and all the activity that was leading up to him finally erecting this abomination of desolation over the holy altar or the holy temple of God or the holy sanctuary. So, but now it said he shall stand up against the prince of princes, and he's going to be broken without hand. But let's take a look at first. Go to 2 Maccabees 6. We're almost done. 2 Maccabees 6 real quick. In verse 1. 2 Maccabees 6 and 1. But he said he would magnify himself in his heart, destroy many. We read that we've been reading that thus far. 2 Maccabees 6 and 1. Go ahead.
Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of God.
What else was verse 2? What was he trying to get him to do?
And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people.
The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous unto the people. What was going on?
For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles.
So the temple was filled with riot and reveling. So it's just a party in there all the time, right? That's what we're reading about in this Maccabees, this history, what was going on in the temple that brought mischief and made the people sore. And it was sore and grievous to the people. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles who what?
Who dally with harlots.
So you got harlots in there. You dallying with harlots. So it's a whorehouse now. Go ahead.
And had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places.
So now you got a community of women you deal with. It's a circuit. It said, and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy place. That's what's going on now. I'll tell you straight up. Going on now in so-called Israelite churches. Same stuff. And what?
And besides that brought in things that were not lawful.
And besides that wasn't enough. Then you bring stuff into the temple that's not even lawful. What else?
The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbidded.
Well, we read that started in 168. You can read it in the Encyclopedia Britannica in 168. Because when they sacrificed the abomination of desolation, when it was erected or set up. It said the altar was filled with profane things which the law forbidded. Verse 6, what else?
Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts.
Now it wasn't even lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath or the ancient feasts. What else?
Or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
What else you had to do? They want you to put down the Sabbath and the feast of God. You can't even call yourself an Israelite. But this is what you can do, though. This is what you can do. Go ahead.
And in the day of the king's birth, every
but you can celebrate the king's birthday, though. Israelites wasn't doing that. The children of God don't do that. Look at the Israel on your own. You can type it in Google. Israel on your own, pagan. We did a lesson on it. Pagan, dealing with devils. They make you put down the Sabbath day to honor the king's birth. But you want to do it too. That's funny. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they what?
And every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices.
They was being forced to go to this man's birthday. Go ahead.
And when the fast of Bacchus was kept,
the feast of banquetings and revelings. Go ahead.
Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy.
Man, tough times. Daniel 8:25 again.
There's work with a dude with that last thing.
Bacchus. Daniel 8:25.
8:25. Then okay, right there still.
Daniel, go ahead and read again.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand against the prince of princes, but shall be broken without hand.
And I mentioned when we discovered how Antiochus died, he was broken without hand. He had a stomach disease. Nobody touched him, but he said he stood up against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken without hand. Let's go read it like we ended it last week. Talking about the same individual, 2 Maccabees 9. Just like in Isaiah with Hezekiah and the Syrians trying to come up. They said, you say ain't gonna shoot no arrow over here. They was broken without hand. And what does history tell you? They all died of a plague. That's how the angels get you. 2 Maccabees, that's how the Lord works, get you in the stomach, right in the tummy. 2 Maccabees chapter 9, you can read about a wicked king. They said when he died, nobody even cared about him. 2 Maccabees 9:1. Go ahead and read.
About that time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia, for he had entered the city called Perapolis, and went about to rob the temple.
Right, the temple Artemis. We discovered that last week. The temple Artemis, a woman deity who tried to destroy it, but he got whooped. Go ahead.
Into hold, whereupon the multitude running to defend themselves with their weapons put them to fight. And so it happened that Antiochus being put to fight of the inhabitants returned with shame. Now when he came to Ecbatane, news was brought to him. News brought him what happened to Nicodemus.
And this is now we at the end when the Maccabees is cleansing the temple, and they was fighting them off while they were cleansing the temple, right? That's what we started with. So he heard what happened to Nicanor and Timotheus. They got whooped. So they cleansing the temple, all that. They getting whooped at the same time. Go ahead and read.
Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews the disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee. Therefore commanded he his chariot men to drive without ceasing and to dispatch the journey, the judgment of God now following him. For he has spoken proudly in the sword that he would come to Jerusalem and make it a common burying place of the Jews.
He said he gonna stand up against the prince of princes. You gonna make this holy city a graveyard, huh? We'll see. Go ahead and read.
But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invisible plague.
So he said he magnified himself in his heart. Oh, you gonna make Jerusalem the new graveyard, huh? Okay. But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invisible plague for what?
As soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels that was remediless came upon him, and sore torments of the inner parts.
And that most justly,
for he had tormented other men's bowels with many strange torments. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but was still filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, and commanding to haste the journey.
She used to talk about Israel. That's who you standing against the prince of princes. You gonna do what to my people? No way. Go ahead and read.
But it came to pass that he fell down from his chair, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pain.
Broken without hand. Nobody touched him, did they? Go ahead and read.
And thus he that a little afore thought he might command the waves of the sea. So proud he was beyond condition of man.
He was so lifted up in his heart. He was saying he was beyond the condition of man. He on some other stuff, thinking he can command the sea, the waves of the sea, and all that. Go ahead and read.
And weigh the high mountains in the balance.
So he think how much a mountain weigh. Go ahead.
And now it was cast on the ground and carried in an horse litter showing forth into all the manifest power of God,
So what happened?
so that the worms rose up out of the body of this wicked man, and whilst he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army.
Well, you can read in Acts 12, somebody else died the same way. They was proud and lifted up, and then he was consumed and eaten of worms as well. Let's skip on down to 28.
Thus the murderer and blasphemer, having suffered most grievously, as he entreated other men, so he died a miserable death in a strange country in the mountains.
Right, so go back to Daniel 8 and we'll finish it here. Put that 2,300 days back on the screen. Read that one more time.
It's right here.
Yes, sir.
2,300 days equals 6 years, 3 months, and 20 days. Caslu, December 165 BC, the temple was cleansed.
That's when the temple was cleansed, right?
In 171 BC, the beginning of indignation. Menelaus, the false prophet.
He opened the door for Antiochus and the temple to be defiled. Go ahead.
Assault against the temple in 171 until 165 when cleansed by Maccabees.
He was cleansed by the Maccabees in 165, but the desolation started taking place in the great transgressions and all of that started taking place in 171. Daniel 8 and 13. No. Daniel 8 and 11. Daniel 8 and 11. We're finishing here. Daniel 8 and 11.
Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
And we read that in the Britannica last week. In 168, he took the daily sacrifice away. But we saw all the desolations or the defilement starting to take place with Menelaus in 171. So in the first place, Antiochus came. After 2 years, he came back. In 168, he put erected the sacrifice of pig and sprinkled the broth of swine's flesh everywhere. Verse 12, and that's when the daily sacrifice was taken away. Verse 12.
And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
What did he say with his army? They came through, was killing everybody, infants, young men, women, didn't matter. What he said was because of the reason of transgression. Then we discovered that in the Maccabees, it said if the children of Israel wasn't sinning, they would have got sent away just like Helidorus got sent away when he came trying to scope out the temple. But they was already sinning. So the Lord turned his back on them for a second. And he said, and the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression and what?
And it cast down the truth to the ground. And it practiced and it prospered.
Right. So that's why he had letters being written, talking about forsaking your God, putting all your laws down, celebrate my birthday, build gymnasiums and all that. He said, sacrifice to Jupiter and all that, right? And prosper. Verse 13. How long did this all take place? Go ahead.
Then I heard one saint speaking to another. And another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
And it was cleansed by the Maccabees. And that's Daniel 8, 2,300 days. This happened during the Greek Empire. Hope you got some understanding. All right. Stand for Jerusalem. Close on out. Real quick. Atonement. It's October 4th at sundown. We'll have class on Wednesday, the 5th. So next Wednesday, the 5th, 1 o'clock, 1:30. We'll 1:30 Wednesday, and then we'll be at our old spot by the airport. What's it called? The Marriott 4949 Regent. It's on here. It's on 4949 Regent Boulevard in Irving, Texas. All right. And then we'll have some other dates for y'all with Trump. All right, we're gonna stand for Jerusalem close out.
The Lord bless thee and keep thee.
The Lord bless thee and keep thee.
The Lord make his face shine upon thee
The Lord make his face shine upon thee,
and be gracious unto thee.
and be gracious unto thee.
The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee
The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee,
and give thee peace.
and give thee peace.
And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel,
And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel,
and I will bless them.
and I will bless them.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
In Jesus' holy name.